now return to Let's Play Cities Skylines, this time with music from Kevin MacLeod. I had the in-game music going last episode, but didn't really... It was mostly just atmospheric stuff. I'd forgotten what the soundtrack was actually like. I also finished off my grid here, off camera, because building roads is just boring, and filled the episode with nothing. I also moved the park back, mostly so that these roads, which are my one-ways now, can now flow down through this little valley here. And this gives me a little bit extra room. I'll still have to figure out what this square is. And I've got these mega squares here that I'm going to figure out as well. I also, off camera, did my roundabout thing here. Now, my original plan was to have a double roundabout, but it just wasn't working out for me. And I spent way too long on it. So I'd probably spent an hour fiddling around with this until I finally just settled for this. But yeah, I think this will work for now. I'm not really super thrilled about having 3 lanes go in this way, and we'll have to see how this deals with traffic, but just to have some connection so that we can actually get started here. Someday I'll actually learn how to do a proper Let's Play and not just have the first episode being boring as hell. Anyway, let's get into it. So again, just in the interest of having things started here, we're just going to go ahead and put down some basic infrastructure. I am going to get these fixed a little bit later on. Let's come down. Okay, I'm going to need you to not do this. So, it's not going to be perfect, but I want the water to be going down roads, and this is primarily for realism, which, you know, this whole game is all about realism. But I just kind of want to try and make things work closer to how they should, just because a lot of my ideas for city building have always come from just realistic, well, just from my own real-world experience, I guess I should say, of how things are laid out, how I feel they should be laid out. So we'll go to something like this, just continue it on through here, I guess. Connect up here. I don't think it's actually necessary to have anything go through here. I do not plan to have buildings sitting there. So we'll be fine for now. So that'll work there, and then we need electricity, of course. So let's just get started with something simple. Now I do eventually want office buildings running along the side here. Just trying to think of something. Okay, this'll work for a while. Since we're not playing with money, I may as well put it all down. So, you know, it might be less interesting that I'm playing with everything unlocked and all that stuff, but seeing as how this is really just more of a project for getting a city built, just an idea that I had, I don't want to have the hassle. And frankly, when you've got to unlock everything in the game, it means there's a lot of coming back to things, you know, especially when you plan like this. I realize a lot of people don't plan and they just kind of lay out cities as they go. But when I plan cities like this, I don't want to have to come back because, well, after several dozen episodes, I tend to forget things. So anyway, I'm going to start with putting down some commercial, I think. I want this road and that road to be commercial, and then we'll put some residences in between here. Now, this is going to be primarily low residential to start with, but I do eventually want this to be high residential. I want this all to be rather large buildings here. Another thing that I have learned whilst researching this is that offices actually act as industry. I believe they act as educated industry, so I can't just completely ignore industry to begin with. But that was an interesting revelation that I guess I just never realized. I probably should have, but I just didn't think about it. So we also may as well get that started then. So coming in here, I think we're going to probably want to, let's look at the hill here. Probably going to want to just have it go in this way. I don't know. Let's go ahead and just put down... Now there is an industrial road somewhere. Small industry road, there we go. We'll do something over here. Gonna have that go along here. That does provide a bit of a hill. Not a super fan of that. I really don't know how far we're going. That'll be okay for now. And then I got this road here that I think will come along this. Now, I need to bear in mind that I want to have a train. Come on. Why can't I get you to turn? Well, anyway, I need to get that in there. So let's also come in here with, say, road maybe here. Let's pull it back a little bit. Let's take a look at this. Okay, well, we can make that curve down into this. Actually, having it offset is just fine, because I'd also like to have multiple tracks. Like, I don't want this station to just be stopped on the track. I'd want a track that goes through, and then I want to pull off. So that actually works out pretty well. And yeah, that'll work. It'll be just fine. So we have a way to get to work now. Let's go ahead and put that other road back in. And do I actually want the road running up against this? I guess probably, huh? So we'll do something kind of like this. And I'm not really sure how I'm going to get this to go, so that'll just work for right now. Maybe I can figure out some kind of roundabout intersection thing. That's not the important part. The important part is going to be on the inside of this. So, it's actually, maybe I can do that. That's not going to work either. Roads have always been the bane of my city building career. Okay, I do not like that, but this is also not how I want this to end either. Okay. So, in order to open up industry, we need to begin with farming. I want kind of a mix. I want a mix of both the specific DLC industries and later industry, just the generic industry. So, for right now, that'll work. We need to come into zone, do industrial specialization zone. I think that's what we do here, right? Why? Do I not pick... Is this not how you do this? Paint park. Paint industry, there we go. Kind of forgot myself. And you know what? I can actually just paint this whole damn thing. Not like that, though. Let's actually stick to this. Oh my god. Okay. Try this again. And these areas out here will also have Monopoly Street names. And I was thinking that I'd probably end up using the smaller properties, the poorer properties. You know, Baltic Avenue, Mediterranean Avenue, that sort of thing. I thought about using those as like low income and trying to use the game mechanics a little bit to you know, make the low land value areas and all that stuff. But I also thought that that was kind of needlessly cruel. I mean, why do that when it doesn't actually have any impact on the game? And it really doesn't. You know, one of the interesting things about city builders is actually how unrealistic they are. And one of the things about this game, and you know, really SimCity as well, but is how when land value goes up, really the only consequence of that is higher taxes. Gentrification does not seem to happen. You do not seem to lose population because they suddenly can't live anywhere, which I guess means that it sort of then simulates the fact that you know, it's the theoretical that as more people gain a better place to live, and land value goes up, you know, bigger industries come in, and people make more money, and so it's the whole rising tides theory, and I find that to be an interesting take. I'm also going to have to, there we go. Now where? I appear to have lost my move it? Well, that's interesting. I don't have the move it tool. Somehow that disappeared. Okay, well, we'll have to figure that one out in between recordings. Anyway, let's get started with, say, a workers' barracks and a farm maintenance building. Of course, we want that kind of close to the office. And we'll get started with at least one farm. We'll just do that for now. Industry actually seems to take up an enormous amount of workers, the specialized industry. So it actually seems to provide for quite a lot. Like we need 40 workers just to be in the barracks, which doesn't make a lot of sense because that would imply it's a job. It also requires educated. Interesting. 75 just in the maintenance building. So yeah, I think we've got plenty of working, we've got plenty of jobs now. What we need to do though is, well, you know what, let's just make these guys self-sufficient out here as far as energy needs are concerned. And we will just drag that in. I'm also going to put a water tower out here. We'll just put that right at the entrance. And now these guys are watered. Can I make you... I realize that this being on a dirt road, I don't necessarily know that I want this to be a dirt road. I think I'd actually like to just make sort of an infrastructure of paved roads or industrial roads like this, and then make the inside the dirt roads. But anyway, so that works now. Let's actually get the game started. Let's see. People come in. Oh, this actually does have to be watered. You're telling me this isn't watered. Okay. It has to specifically go through the center of the park to be watered, I guess. That is actually very obnoxious. Well, you know what? Okay, I don't feel bad about this because this is not actually going to be living land. So the whole reasoning, I guess we're not getting commercial here yet. The whole reasoning here for putting pipes under roads is just because that's how it is. You don't have water mains and gas lines and all that going directly under homes, obviously, because it would make it very difficult to get to for maintenance and that sort of thing. So aside from the fact that if upgrades, you know, if the city upgrades infrastructure or whatever, there's just a whole mess involved in that, and I forgot to put an output on this. So for realism, such as that is, we're gonna not do that. But it's okay here. And it's okay here because what actually is going to go on these sides are parking lots, which is one of the few asset DLCs that I actually have. And this comes from this going to eventually be Park Place. And it is actually, you know, not based upon the name in Monopoly, is not based upon an actual park. It is apparently, or at least just judging from a quick look at Google Maps, judging from it actually being a parking place. If you actually look up Park Place in Atlantic City, the only thing I found with that name was just a bunch of parking lots outside of the casinos and hotels. kind of interesting. You know what, let's actually make this on a grid so I don't just have this going all over the goddamn place. Make that snap here, and I guess we'll pick here. I want this to be, you know what, this is more central. So have that come up there. And we will put 2 big parking lots right there. And hopefully that will deal with the electric. Let's actually fix this here. So now have some expansion. Okay, so it actually looks like maintaining here. We've got way too many jobs. Oh, these guys need output as well. Okay, well, I guess we'll just end up hooking the... We're not getting electricity out here. Boy, I'm just doing terribly. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. So we will just try and alleviate that. I think we can just hook directly underneath there. Well, I mean, I don't care about you because I'm just... In fact, we can just get rid of this. I'll have to put it down later. It's just there to remind me. But electricity along the way here is not working out. So I'm just going to put down wind generators just to take care of it. Eventually what I think I'll do is maybe put the wind farms out in the water to handle some of that. Possibly, well, I mean, eventually this will all go out there, and so just by spread of zoning, we'll end up getting some of that. Another thing I think I would like to do, yeah, this is a bad deal here. So maybe, yeah, let's see. I can surprisingly draw quite a bit of this. Maybe I don't want to do that, though. I don't know. Maybe I think I'd be better off with just park pathing. Nope. Nope. Nope, it doesn't actually like it. Okay, so we may end up having to do, like, fences or something there. But I don't like that. I'd like it to be flush. But that is something I will fix on my own time. Another thing that I want to do that I generally haven't been doing in a lot of my... Another mod that I have is the spinner, the tree spinner, which is nice. I'd like to do a lot more greenery. I think that looking at my previous playthroughs, not only of this game, but just really of a lot of city builders, I haven't done a lot of greening and or detailing. You know, you look at the laid down of it, and it looks very bland. Most of my cities do. So I would like to fill in a lot more of the dead zones and the empty spaces with something. In fact, one of the first things I'd like to do is come in here and put in these pathways along the side here. So what I'm gonna do, now I don't know, do I want to use that or do I want to use these? The thing I don't like about these zoned pedestrian paths is that they have these very awkward lampposts in the middle. They also have these pylons here. What are they called? Pollards? Bollards? These don't actually stop cars from going. I think I mentioned that in the last episode. Cars will drive on pedestrian pathing. So I think in order to maintain this, I think what I actually want to do is just keep these as actual pathways. Let's go ahead and keep that straight. Okay. So it will give the impression of just sort of being an alleyway. But then what I'd like to do is maybe, so that we don't end up with just a bunch of 4x4 sections and buildings on every block, I'd like to kind of break this up by having pathways come through here and just break up the block. It'll also help with pedestrian traffic. One thing that I also learned is that pedestrians do not cross the street anywhere except at crossings, which makes a lot of sense. But what it also means is that in terms of creating a pedestrian-friendly city, if you don't have breakups along the way, your people will have very long ways to walk, and because everyone has a pocket vehicle, it's more likely that if they have a very, very long way to walk, they'll just drive, contributing to the traffic. And sometimes, you know, they won't cross the street, they won't walk across the street, but they will more than happily jump into a car in the middle of the street. And so I've seen a few videos where that causes quite the snafu, and you know, people just like getting off of a bus stop or something. You know, if there's not a good way to get anywhere else, then they'll just kind of get off the bus stop and then just get into a bunch of cars, and then it obviously causes traffic problems. So we don't want that, if that is at all possible. Okay, so now we're bumping back up into farming needs here, and we're not really doing much for farming type. I would actually like to keep that somewhat realistic too, so you know, if we're going to be doing... this seems to count just towards generic crops, and only the appearance matters when we change what crop type it is. But you know, obviously if I'm going to be putting down like say a cattle farm or something, which requires a crop as part of its production, it doesn't make sense to have cotton be the production crop for the cattle. You know, I mean, that it's just not what they do. We'd be using wheat or something, or I guess that's all we got. We don't have barley in here. But, you know, so I kind of want to just make it a little bit more realistic, even if it's not going to matter at all. Like I said, I don't know what I want to do with this just yet, but I do want to make this look a little bit better. Maybe a roundabout here would not be amiss. But anyway, what else do we need right now? Police. Okay, so police. I'm going to pause here because this is kind of a big deal. One thing I want is, like I said, for this to be the central Civic Plaza area. This will be where most of the government buildings are. And one thing I also need to take into consideration is that a lot of these buildings, a lot of these monument buildings and these unique buildings that you unlock are very large. And so, like, if I wanted to put down, where is it? There's a library in here somewhere. At it? Well, no. Anyway, but there's like a library, and it's enormous. And in order to actually fit that in here, this is the academic one, but in order to fit that in there, this long rectangular block is not going to work. So what I'm actually going to do is take this block out right there, and I'm going to have to put a building in here, and I might do it over here as well. So these super squares here are obviously too big to put buildings in. There's a big empty spot, but what I was thinking I could do with them as well is put in some of these big plaza park things in the middle, and then get to them via these pedestrian paths. So I could have a sort of a central plaza in sort of a business district. I do want more high-rise business buildings to be in here. So maybe that's what I'll do here, and then I'll end up smattering those around elsewhere. For now, though, because I'm not really sure where I want to put the big police headquarters. This isn't actually all that big. Yeah, we can put it across here. That's fine, actually. But I don't want it here, because that's a one-way, so we'll need to have it going... Ooh, that's a one-way too. Isn't it? Yeah, that's a one-way too. So it'll have to be here. So we'll put the police station right there. That'll be the police headquarters, and... yeah, I don't know. I don't know if maybe I want to put parking lot there. Smaller ones would actually fit very well. Might help. Might help with aesthetics and all that. But anyway, like I said, this is not the final version of this. These are all going to go towards being eventual skyscrapers and high-rise buildings in this whole area here. We'll end up making a suburb down here, and go from there. Now, I think before we quit here, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put down first district. So Park Place in Monopoly is a property and is technically a road in New Jersey, but I figure, oh my god, that's not the right thing to do. Figure that for the sake of this, we'll consider it to be a district. So why don't we just go ahead and do that? We'll include the Civic Center as well in that. We'll continue on with Park Place. I think I can probably get another parking spot in here. I'm going to try and avoid some of the assets that I've got. I like these parking garages. I don't know. Maybe I'll put some in. Maybe they'd fit in. I don't know. They just kind of seem like they don't fit in. What's the deal? Okay, clearly we maybe need to get the power company going first. I feel like I've cut something off instead. Maybe not. Alright, well anyway, more people are willing to come in. Just as an experiment, why don't we go ahead and bump one of these up. Get that going. Now, I do, in fact, plan to curate this a little bit, and you know what? I think for the sake of the Let's Play, I'm going to turn off the night and day cycle, just so we can see things. It really defeats the whole purpose of having the nightlife or the nighttime DLC, but this doesn't. I don't think this is visually very interesting, and it's kind of hard for me to see too. The night is very long, so I'll turn that off, and we'll kind of go from there. But so there is actually a way to force your buildings into different sizes and heights and densities and all that thing through a combination of streets and policies. And so, like if I didn't want this, I could enact a policy of this area if I made it a district and make it so that there are no high-rises. Somewhere in here. Like you can limit the heights. You can also change some based upon like high-tech housing. So you can change the look of it. There's a video online, or on YouTube specifically, I guess, about having, you look at this and there's a very few smattering amounts of this, but between policies and roads, you can actually like triple the amount of zone types and building types, and it's actually pretty interesting. It's a little bit more complex than just slapping things down, but unfortunately we are not anywhere near a positive weekly income. And while I would eventually like to make the city actually functional, right now I'm more worried about laying things out. And now we are looking at death care. Okay, well I guess that'll be the next bit. We'll get all the essential services down and maybe actually start. Did this not? Maybe actually start, getting the city actually spread out and planned down and really just slamming it. I guess instead of worrying about demand, I will try and drive it just by throwing down zones and whatever, and in the interest of keeping the city growing and the series somewhat interesting, I'll just put down what I want, and then if things aren't building up or growing or whatever, we'll come back in and fix it that way. And that way we're not sitting around just waiting for stuff to happen. So I'm going to figure out this little thing with the park here, and we'll go from there next time.